This week on Africa Weekly, South Africa faces a new fight against poachers as donkeys are killed for their skins for use in Chinese medicine. A Liberian hydroelectric power plant puts homes and businesses in the West African nation on the grid, and we take a ride on Ethiopia's tram network, which hasn't quite had the desired effect. But first, here's a summary of the stories that made the headlines this week. At least 113 people died and dozens more were hurt in a giant landslide at Ethiopia's largest rubbish dump just outside Addis Ababa. Tragedy struck when part of the largest hillside at the kosher rubbish dump collapsed, burying a slum that had been built on the landfill. Squatters blamed the accident on a biogas plant being built nearby, saying bulldozers had destabilised the soil during construction. Chad's former foreign minister, Moussa Faki Mahamat, took office as head of the African Union Commission, pledging to reform the institution and tackle the continent's many crises. Faki takes over leadership of the 54-country continental bloc days after the United Nations announced that the food emergencies in 4 countries, including Somalia, South Sudan and northeast Nigeria, constituted the worst humanitarian crisis since World War II. 2 people were killed after 4 female suicide bombers blew themselves up near a bus station in Nuzmanti camp in northeastern Nigeria. The camp is home to thousands of people driven from their homes as a result of the presence of Boko Haram. The Islamist group has frequently used young women and girls as human bombs. Boko Haram's insurgency to create a hardline Islamic state in northeastern Nigeria has claimed at least 20,000 lives and forced about 2.6 million people to flee. However, in Cameroon, the government said its troops had rescued 5,000 civilian hostages held by Boko Haram Islamists in a cross-border operation that left scores of jihadists dead. For just under a month, Cameroonian troops carried out a vast operation all along the Cameroon-Nigeria border and in Nigeria itself. Some 200,000 Cameroonians from the far north region near Nigeria have fled their villages in fear of the violence carried out by Boko Haram militants. Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari officially returned to work following a health scare. The 74-year-old returned to Nigeria after nearly 2 months' medical leave in Britain. And a pastor working in the mines of eastern Sierra Leone has unearthed a 706-carat diamond, a discovery that experts said could be the 10th largest stone ever found. Sierra Leone's role in the diamond industry has long been controversial, and Freetown residents are already sceptical they will see any gain from the sale.
It may be surprising, but these South African donkeys have become a target for ruthless criminal gangs. That's because the gelatin in their skin is sought after in Chinese traditional medicine. 6 of Ikopoleng's 9 animals have been stolen.
The
community is very angry. Wherever this happens, we call the police, but nothing comes out of it. They just come, but the case doesn't get to court. No one is arrested.
In South Africa, donkey-drawn carts have always been vital for making a living, but their hides had no value. Chinese demand for the gelatin in the treatment of anemia and menopause has changed that, increased the price of the animals 5-fold and led to a surge in theft and illegal slaughter.
Now we found them slaughtering them. They will use a hammer, they'll hit it on the forehead or from the back of the atlas vertebrae or the axis, whereby it will fall down, and they will use a knife to slaughter, to slit the throat, which is inhumane. They cause suffering, and which is a welfare problem now, an issue.
The illicit industry is said to be worth millions of dollars, and with donkey numbers in China in decline, it's increasingly looking to Africa to satisfy demand. Kenya and Botswana already export donkey hides and meat to China, and Namibia is setting up to do the same. And now there are plans to formalize trade with South Africa too.
Yes, it might be a good idea, yes, but then only when it's executed correctly, when the breeding is done correctly, when the slaughtering is done correctly and humane. It's a good initiative whereby jobs will be created whereby people will breed donkeys. Donkeys will be slaughtered in a humane way and will be exporting.
Recently, police have made several large seizures of hides, suggesting the donkey killings could be a growing trend. Their cause may not be as glamorous as preventing the poaching of rhinos, elephants, or lions, but even these donkeys can no longer roam free.
Using her blender, this Liberian baker mixes her cake batter with the help of electric power. Eva runs a bakery in the township of Monrovia. Since the reactivation of Liberia's hydroelectric power station, she's noticed a 70% cut in the cost of production.
Previously, when we used the machine, it's like almost every day we use about $15 to $20 fuel to run the generator. In a week's time, we'll purchase about $50 current for the whole week. I think that's much cheaper in helping my business.
The Liberian Electricity Corporation, LEC, opened its first turbine of the newly renovated Mount Coffee Hydroelectric Dam last December. The dam had been out of action since the country's civil war began over 25 years ago. Now the LEC is slowly reconnecting Monrovia and its surrounding area.
It's been a challenge because the network was not prepared for the kind of reliability that Mount Coffee would afford us. But we have since overcome that challenge.
The first turbine doubled the nation's electricity supply, but less than 2% of Liberians are on the national grid. Power theft remains a problem, and the LEC says it is trying to make its power supply more affordable.
We're now going to be reducing the price from 49 cents to 39 cents beginning the 1st of March. And then we're going to be going to further reduction.
The country's infrastructure is still damaged and power cuts remain frequent. But despite the challenges, Liberians hope that the electric supply will help flick the switch on poverty and lead to a brighter future.
Long queues for the minibus, still a common sight in Addis Ababa. That's despite a modern tramway that started operating in the Ethiopian capital more than a year ago. Not everybody is impressed with the $475 million project.
You can wait for 30 minutes for the tram to come. They promised it would arrive every 6 minutes when it first began operating.
The Chinese-funded tramway is the first in sub-Saharan Africa. It was hailed as a major step in the country's development and is now used by 120,000 people every day. But the trams, just like the buses, are under strain.
So with this number of trains, it's totally impossible to alleviate the transportation problem. But we can see that it has played its own positive role, because we have managed to transport more than 50 million.
Of the 41 light rail cars, a third are currently undergoing repairs.
How come they malfunction within just a year? They should buy good cars that work well. And they should limit the number of passengers in each train.
The tram is cheaper than the bus and is supposed to be faster. But Addis has a rapidly growing population of 4 million plus. And now it's not just the so-called Blue Donkey minibuses that are overcrowded and delayed.
Madagascan Ahmed was elected president of the Confederation of African Football, ousting veteran leader Issa Hayatou after 29 years in office to usher in a new dawn for the sport on the continent. And Togo holds its first football championship for women in the hope of scouting players for the national team. A total of 16 clubs have each received a grant of just over €700 in the months-long championship, held in stadiums across the small West African country of 7 million people. Next week, we visit Somalia, where millions of people face a looming famine as they struggle with an extreme drought, failed harvests, and the threat of Islamic militants. That's all from us here at Africa Weekly. Until next week.